Hi guys, welcome to IFN and AMD presents this fireside chat. We're gonna start really shortly, about 4:35. So sit tight, and we'll get started very soon. If you have any questions about how to get your friend in and how to have the recording of this chat after it's done. All the questions, all the technical questions you have, direct them towards Avirup. You will find him in the chat section. And if you want, get the chat section lively and we'll have some fun. All right, we'll be right back. Hi guys, welcome to this side chat brought to you by IFN and AMD. I'm gonna do a quick sound check. Avirup, if you can hear me, can you just drop that in the chat because it looks like a lot of people can't hear us. You can hear me, perfect. All right, so this is us. We are gonna get started. I'm gonna bring in the two people you guys have been waiting for, Vijesh and Yashoda. Guys, please turn your cameras on. Hello, welcome. This is where the magic happens. This is the Fires Chat, AMD, the people behind AMD Ryzen Threadripper, a revolutionary 32 cores desktop processor for creators that aims to render time irrelevant and help you meet your visions. Comes together with Indifolio Network, IFN, the largest network of creative professionals across the country, to bring you this fire chat with the director duo from Plexus Studios, Vijesh and Yashoda. Hi, guys.
Hello.
It's an absolute pleasure. We have been chatting back and forth for a while now. And I'm so excited for this conversation and hour that we're going to spend together. I know you definitely don't need an introduction, but I'm going to give you one, and a long and embarrassing one, so please sit tight. Vijesh and Yashoda are creator duos behind Plexus Studios. They bring an independent voice to visual effects, animation, and motion design, coming in from directorial backgrounds. They are both storytellers at heart, and I can definitely vouch for that. The studio also works on post-production for film, TV series, music videos, and commercials. Some of my favorite work of theirs are title sequences and music videos that you cannot look away from, which might be the reason why I have never skipped the intro sequence of Sacred Games or have watched the Gustav music so many times. They have also worked on brilliant projects like the VFX, trailer graphics, and title sequence for Placebo, Okay Kadmani, Angry Indian Goddesses, beautiful, Detective Byomkesh Bakshi, full name, Raman Raghav 2.0, Solo, Guilty, and many more. Their work for the sequence for Solo was nominated for a 2018 South by Southwest in Title Design Award. I promised you long, and I promised you embarrassing. Here we are with Vijesh and Yashoda. I am so delighted to be joined by you guys. We're gonna dive right into the conversation, but just before that, I want to remind everyone who's joining us to keep on let your questions coming in. If you want to comment, if you want to engage with us, we're going to have a Q&A session in the end. So all your questions directed toward Plexus Studio, drop them in the comment section, the chat section right here. And before we dive into what we are talking about today, which is the importance of passion projects, right? For designers and creators, talking about the importance of time and work management that can help us meet deadlines. A big part of that is going to be Vijesh and Yashoda telling you how to manage your tech better. Going to be talking about a lot of tech hacks and tech fails. But before that, we're going to give a huge shout out to AMD for always looking out and empathizing with creators. So I have a 30-second video for you guys from AMD that is far more kick-ass than it needs to be. So it is my absolute privilege to show this to you. Hold on tight.
For those who have been forced to sacrifice their vision and leave ideas unexplored, there is a new path. A path for all creators. With the world's most powerful desktop processor, render time irrelevant.
All right. That was that was the video from AMD. I'm so excited that you guys saw that. That was definitely. I mean, I'm not if you could hear the soundtrack well, but they have got it really done. What did you guys think about the video?
That was really cool.
Like that was quite kick-ass. All right, so we're gonna dive into this conversation with Vijesh and Yashoda, and one of the top first questions that we want to ask you, and also like this is something that we have been asking creators in general, because everyone has such delightful nuggets when it comes to this. So especially with guys with so much experience, I'm sure you can share a lot more on this. So we want to know, what are your top 3 time hacks or shortcuts that you guys have learned through your experience on many beautiful projects and being in a very vast and interesting industry, that you want to share with us today that we can take home?
Yashoda, you wanna take it first or should I?
Okay, I can do the first one. I feel, from my personal experience, uh, communication is, it sounds like it might not be very it might not be a time saver with the word, but I feel communicating with your clients regarding the way you work, how you set up, like what's your process, how does your studio function, and how do you break down a project, and what are the stages, and what sort of an interaction schedule that you will have with the client. All of these, when it's communicated right, I think it saves a lot of time, in general, because there is clarity. And I mean, no matter how much you wish for everybody to be able to read your mind and everybody to function a particular way, it's very essential to communicate exactly how you see the project, sharing references early on, setting the kind of pipeline, and putting it on an email, and
And the expectations also,
yeah.
right?
Setting the expectations, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So communication is key in saving a lot of time. I think when your communication is right, I think it helps you build the project better, and there's just an ease of functioning that really helps save a lot of time. And then that's the time you get to do your other passion projects. I mean, if it's a passion project or if it's some other creative pursuit that you wanna, take ahead,
So, yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely.
I just wanted to add to that basically most creators or artists have a little bit of a fear talking to the producer, because like the Indian producer is known to be a very naughty species, So they always think that they may say the wrong thing, they may offend that person, but the whole point of getting into a working relationship is that it needs to work both ways. And so the first and most important thing, like Yashoda said, is to run the producers by a process, like depending on what industry you're in, whether it's animation, whether it's editing, there is a process, and not all producers are aware of that. So if you tell them that, okay, this is the sequence of events, at first we'll send you references, and then these references are going to have the look and feel of the project, and then you have to get the creative team to lock that and approve it, and now we know what the look and feel should be, and then we move on to storyboarding it, creating animatics. Each stage is a step that you can't take backwards. If all of these things are set in stone, and if they're clearly understood by the creative team, then there won't be a lot of chaos, because like what could happen is that you may reach your like somewhere later in the stage where it's time for you to do your final renders, but then suddenly there's like this whole concept change. And
Does that happen a lot?
it happens. Believe me, like you reached all the way to the end, and then suddenly
Yeah.
somewhere high off has seen it, and they're like, "Hey, this doesn't feel like what we want." And so that could be something that uh, then you should put these kind of parameters into your work agreement that says, if there are those kind of changes, then you need to actually get more time and more money. And so all of these are much better addressed before you get into a project, and if it's understood by the person who you're working with, rather than amidst, like when there's tension and there's like a lot of emails flying, changes happening, you've got a delivery date, and then suddenly like there's this whole new thing. It's going to be painful for you to then sit and make them understand that, oh, this is our process and we've deviated from it, and that's why we need to like relook at the budgets and the timelines and everything. They're going to be like, no, you agreed to this, and you're not going to do.
Yeah.
So
Right. When does this knowledge come, like, in your career? When does it, fructify?
as usual, after making most
We've made a bunch of mistakes, I would say that. Like, we didn't know this going in initially, but then back in the day, title sequence was not as big, like as a common thing as it has become today, because of the OTT and so many platforms, and everybody now understands the significance of a title sequence. So our initial projects were pretty much, maybe started off working on indie films, and then like Angry Indian Goddesses it was for a friend, and then so slowly we started building, and through.
Oh, we need more friends like that. That sounds
Yeah,
like a brilliant.
when you're working with your friends or like frequent collaborators, there's an understanding. There's a there's this thing between you that okay, expectations are set already, and just because of friendly relationships, that you can't really push it to a certain extent. But when it comes to corporates and stuff like that, you really don't. You're not a person. You're a vendor.
Yeah.
And they do not know what your team scale is, what your capacity is. So
Right.
they're going to assume that you're just like any other vendor. And some vendors have like hundreds of employees, and they can
Right.
turn out like 50 options overnight. So it's always important that the client knows what kind of state
you
the
said.
organization is in and how much time it'll take to turn over something. There's a question here from Roshan also. It says,
We'll take the questions toward the end. I will read out the compliment for you because it's so nice to hear these things from people. Huge fan of the work you guys are putting out. He does have a question. We'll take that on toward the end because I do want to drill you a bit more on this top three. Come on, Vijesh. Come on. I do want to drill you a bit more on the top three hacks. Of course, we've talked about expectation management, and we talked about something I know that you guys are very passionate about is contractual agreements and expectation setting, which are not just in the air but on paper. So those are some. Yeah, I know that this is something that you guys are passionate about, and you want people to learn early on in their journeys on these creative pursuits. I think from a more technical angle, from a more you guys work very heavy duty machines and heavy duty projects. From that particular angle, I would want to know what is it that you've learned in your work that has saved you time during the process as well as towards the end when the deadline really means a lot.
Yeah. So I generally prefer, like, the first day of production for me. This is after animatic has been done for the project. The first day in production it'll look like really mundane for any outsider to look at me work. But what I'm doing is I'm just making the timeline. I'm color coding shots, and I'm cutting individual shots from the timeline. I'm setting my base shot. Now this might not be something that every artist enjoys, because organizing things is it's not creative part of the job, sort of an approach towards it. But for me, this really helps, and I think it saves a lot of time, in the sense that when I do this first step, I sort of familiarize myself with the entire project. So since I've seen the cuts, since I know what shots are there, what are the number of shots you can expect, that I can expect from myself to be able to deliver. I also get an intuitive sense of which shots are going to be really difficult for me to execute and which shots are going to be easier, and I have this very easy to tough shot kind of an approach. So I start off with like the easier shots, so that I have more in number in the beginning, done like a lot, and I've added the level of detail that I think I need for the project. But of course, to each his own. Like, some people like approaching like the hard shots first, like the difficult shots first, and then set the palette. Like, we just like to do the really hardcore, massive camera motion, 200, 500 layers shots first, and then he does that. So he sets his tone and his timing with that, but I have a very different approach. But I think finding your approach to a project at the beginning will help, because by the time you reach that deadline, it's you're just more sure of the voice of that particular project. You are more aware of how the visual aesthetic is going to end up looking like, and then that will help finish the project. And you'll know if there is a particular change, you'll know which you'll be able to tackle, which you won't. What are the problems a particular request can bring in, or how much more time you might need to execute certain things. So you just become aware of it when you do this. I mean, this is work for me, but I think I would encourage people to figure out what works out for them.
Yeah. And like the practical application of that on your timeline, I would like to illustrate that by doing a little bit of screen sharing. Now, I'm just going to quickly screen share. One second. Okay, it says choose the application or tab. Sorry, I'm not understanding. Okay, yeah, the tab. How do I choose it though? This didn't happen before.
You can. It'll give you a list of tabs to choose from.
Okay, sorry. Let me try again.
Yeah, sure.
Screen share. Ah, there you go. Okay. Strange. It's not screen sharing.
It's
You
cool. We
can-
can still see your screen. It's just not.
You can?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay. Can you see this now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. When I full screen it, can you see?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a shot from the guilty title sequence.
Yeah.
Is it playing? I'm playing it without sound. It's just to
Okay.
show what the shot looks like.
Okay.
Do you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. Now this is the infamous 3 and 4. Basically, it's two shots clubbed together from this sequence, and this is what it looks like in After Effects.
Wow.
So you can see the number of layers here. I'm just going to pull this up to show you the number of layers that are there in shot. And this is a notorious shot because now even as you see this, there are pre-comps, and After Effects users know that pre-comps mean there are several layers clubbed together. And so this is like before we started pre-comping it had around 400 layers. And it's mainly because there are a lot of textures, there's a lot of moving elements in the shot. And you can see Kiara is currently offline right now because, well, she's on holiday. But the whole idea is that if a shot like this can be so complicated and it can have so many elements, then your timeline is going to look crazy. Even if if just one shot. Okay, how do I get out of screen sharing?
You just come back and press the X on the bottom. Yeah.
There you go. I did that.
Yes. You did all by yourself. All by yourself.
So if just one shot can have those many layers, then imagine what your timeline could be. And your average title sequence has somewhere between 30 to 50 shots, So to organize that timeline is a nightmare. So it's better to always pre-comp shots as shot number based. So now this becomes shot 3 and 4. If it gets too heavy, move it out to another After Effects timeline altogether. Just make one just for that, and then you can compile it later. But so those are the kind of things that we do to kind of cut down on panic and disorder later. Because you see them just as shots when you see the main timeline. Shot 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're all like nicely color coded. Yashoda likes making the timeline very colorful.
Yeah.
One person working from like this end and another one coming from that end. I'm sure there's a meeting ground somewhere that happens, and I think that's where the fun sort of comes through in your work. I know another thing that we talked about that you guys are. I hope you would share about Maximo. I know that is another thing that you guys are a big fan of, and you think it's something that can save time for people.
Correct.
For the music video, because we are a 2-people team, to begin with, and we had like another team for CGI and everything else. We found this hack, and we found this website called Samo. And basically what we managed to do in the project, which saved a lot of time, was we found assets which were available, so we didn't have to get into
some rustling sound that I keep hearing. I'm sorry, is that one of you or
is a muffled sound? What is it?
There's a rustling sound, like it keeps.
I can hear it too. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There, I heard it again. Oh, maybe your mic's kind of rustling against.
Oh yeah, that could be it. That could be it. Now?
Yeah, it's gone now.
Yeah, it's gone.
Technology.
Yeah, Yashoda was talking about Mixamo actually.
Yeah, so basically to reduce our production time for
Gusta.
In Gusta, we found models that were already available, very basic, simple models. For the city, we had Kit Bash 3D pack, where we get assets like the entire city, you get as CGI assets, and you can then modify it according to your needs and aesthetics. And for the animation now, 3D animation is usually generally artist nightmare, because character animation is really difficult, and to keep it accurate and to get the nuances right is very difficult. But thankfully, like, we live in the day and age where we have stuff like Mixamo, where you can just upload a model and choose basic animations which you can use, which you can immediately just download, and then you also have the capability to sort of like tweak the animation, set the cycle, set the timing of the animation, loop it if you want, and then take it to your 3D software or render engines and then render it. So this was something even like 5 to 6 years ago was very difficult to do, and today we have everything available. And these things, making use of what is available out there, can really help you, execute a project like Gustav, because that is there were like literally like 150 shots just in the music video, and many of them, in fact, almost each shot had like set extension, background character animation, crowd duplication. Then we had the crumbling of the buildings, and
I love that.
and so there were just too many things in each and every shot. But having these indie hacks and the techniques that are available to creators these days, we were able to meet our deadline and sort of pack the entire post-production VFX timeline to 45 days, which would have not been possible, say, like 5 years ago. So Mixamo is a website that I would definitely...
Yeah, like Roshan says, Mixamo
I'd
for
love
life.
for the artists, I feel for people who joined us who don't actually know about it, I'd love to screen share again.
Absolutely. Go for it, Vijesh.
Okay.
You can do it.
So just in case you guys don't know, the project that we're talking about is Gustak. It's a independent music video that we created for a band called The Local Train. And basically this involves a cyberpunk world, and there are a lot of these miniature characters that are all basically, androids, and they in this world harmoniously. Now, the thing about this project was that we decided to shoot it mainly with miniatures to begin with, and we were thinking we'll do stop motion, but then once we started building the sets and everything, we realized that scale of the world is really hard to kind of capture, because we wanted to really make it look like a world that is lived in. There are a lot of characters, there's a lot of movement and stuff like that, and it's not easy to create that kind of city with just miniatures. So we, of course, then this is like from the breakdown that we've done for it, and basically you can see there's like a lot of cardboard that we used for this, and so miniature cards and stuff. And now, to extend it, to make the world look more believable, to add more depth to it, to add more character to it, we had to, of course, take stuff like this, and then, of course, use CG, build backgrounds, add more character to it that way. And for the CG backgrounds, of course, we use this kit called as Neo Tokyo, which is available on kitbash3d.com. I'm sure at some point we will be sharing links somewhere over here. Now, Kitbash is amazing.
Yeah. Avi, could you please?
Yeah. I'll put you on that, bro. So the thing about Kitbash is you have like this city that you can create. There are models that now we use Cinema 4D for this, and we use Octane. Now you get this kind of like a base model. This pack has all these kind of different buildings, and then of course we created like this particle plane, which helped us kind of like spread the city out and create duplicates of all the the city elements. And the good thing about it is it's so detailed. Like, you can see the amount of detail that have been put into your models, to make it look so real. And the good thing about something like this, is that it really cuts down your production time by you don't have to create these models anymore. They're available, and you can, like, the entire city is in 3D, and you can just like move your camera wherever you want and set the plane. So that really helped us a lot, to build the infrastructure, to build the backgrounds, to make it look like there's a really big place and it's like a cyberpunk world. Oh, I'm going to screen share again. Sorry. Ooh.
No, you're okay.
I clicked something. I clicked the PDF option.
Stop clicking the. Oh. Well, it's happening now.
Now.
Yeah, you're sharing right now.
Yeah. So you can see how we've like added these holographic elements also. Now most of the holographic elements we just added in, like we use Photoshop and like okay, this is the bear trial, the different kinds of suits. Now the idea of scale in this project came from, of course, creating this monster first and then the city backwards, so that
are we calling it Teddyzilla?
Yeah. Then we really had this idea that there's this really cute teddy that comes, it's stepping all over the city, and then when it gets attacked, it turns around and farts on people and sets everyone on fire. It was like a really stupid idea, but we wanted to see that in like a really serious cyberpunk setting. So
I think one of the questions we should take right now is from Paul Bobby, who in this project, why did you guys opt to mix live footage with 3D?
Because so the idea was to make it feel funny in some sense, that like you have this teddy that's the real fur ball and it's like a real person in a suit. Yeah. And then there's like these little guys who are like running helter skelter and like they're being stepped on and like explosions are happening. So we wanted the world to have like this kitsch feel, like not very ultra realistic. Because we were also thinking that there could be like Godzilla like creature which is like CG. Yeah. But that's budget or production friendly, That's
also, merchandising opportunities.
Yeah.
There you go.
So that's why we felt like it's better to shoot it like real things and then just use extensions to make the scale look bigger. We wanted it to be a small project at heart, and to be honest, it began as a small project, and then we just realized that there are so many possibilities now that we could really scale it up. So it was a decision that was made after shoot that, actually we can get Neo Tokyo. Actually we can use extensions in the background. We can actually get characters walking around and running around and stuff because we have Mixamo. Speaking of Mixamo, so this is Mixamo, the website. And as you can see, there are a lot of these characters that are doing preset animations that are loopable. And all you need to do is upload your character here. And then it'll, use in this T-pose, it'll then set your the character to basically your rings,
wow. Okay.
On your character. And then you can just put any of these animations in and tweak them. Like now this guy is dancing and he's having a good time at this talk that we're having. We can change the parameters of this also, make him move faster, increase arm space, trim the duration, reduce the energy level, and then just download it. And like you have 4 different characters, they could have 4 different presets, and now there's like a party scene of these guys just dancing, Yeah. So that's what Mixamo does for us. It gives us so many options for character animation that are like already motion captured, and that saves us time for character animation. You don't need to hire tons of people to work on background characters and stuff like that. Now you can just do it by downloading these presets, and then you can again create like a party played and then spread them out, and now you have like this force of people, like a whole huge crowd. So yeah, I mean, these are the kind of things that actually helped us save time on
Yeah. I think that has been, sorry?
Yashoda, you want to run us by the other thing, the computers?
The rig, yes. Yeah. I really want to hear that.
Basically about like how we Daisy chained a few of our computers together so that we could.
So this is absolutely listen up to this one. I mean, we've talked about a lot of things, a lot of important things, but this is one of my favorite stories from these guys. So yeah, absolutely.
So basically, we had initially we had like 2 machines when we were doing the stack, and then we needed one more, and then Jishnu Chatterjee, who's also now fully into motion design, and you must have seen his Cam 92 title sequence. He was our team back then, and we basically did this very indie setup of connecting each of the computers through LAN, and then like it's not like an official server big studio setup, but we were able to club all the machines in the studio together. And what that did was giving us the access to do the Octane, use the Octane license in all of the machines. So this is like the good part of hacking things. The bad part, you have certain disaster, thunderstorm nights, machine is just like,
Yeah.
I need to be taken to the ICU.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about that. That is literally what I want to talk about next.
The machines were basically, we needed more GPU power because we had so many frames to render. So decided that instead of investing money and getting like a GPU rig, we borrowed our friends' computers. Most of our friends are motion designers, so they have they've got good GPUs. They've got Octane licenses and stuff like that. And so we had at one point a setup of 6 machines, all basically daisy chained with each other on LAN, and we had like an Octane render server, which was just like basically each frame was taking 30 minutes to render, but with 6 computers, it was now come down to like three or 4 minutes. That's it per frame. And that really cut down our render times later. It really helped us to speed up production, do experiments as well. Because a lot of times what happens in CG is that you have a set look in mind and you know what is going to turn out to be like because you're punching in a bunch of numbers and parameters, and then it's sort of like baking, throwing a bunch of things into a baking tray and putting it in the oven, and then you have no idea what it's going to look like when it kind of finally is rendered. So it was like that for Gustak, like a bunch of things we didn't know what the animations would look like, whether there's some issues, and
there was one shot in particular where we literally remodeled the teddy because we needed this very CCTV drone shot, like which is a very complete top angle, and the monster hits the stand, breaks it. There was no way we could have shot this, and we couldn't shoot it obviously, so we had to do that entirely in CG. So when we were looking at the model, the teddy looked fine, but we had to render it to see, and there were 4 particles, like a gazillion in number, so to do renders constantly to see if it looked like the live action teddy, despite like we had the reference images and all of that. To match that, we had to do multiple renders, and having this sort of connected network license just helped us, speed up the process. So a half an hour per frame render probably took us like 5 minutes, and that is a huge difference for a sequence. Like even if it's a music video, the sequence duration, like for time for render, is just reduced by like 1/10. And that's great.
Like, I mean, is that a genius? Like, is that a genius thing? I honestly
no, it's a standard thing actually for CG. What happens is most motion design companies have their own render farms, which is just basically stacks of
render farms. Yeah,
we can't afford that. Like, we work out of my home, right? so we had to do this. We had to borrow our friends' computers and hope that they don't melt over the weekend as we rendered all this stuff.
Yeah, we had all the ACs on and like constantly airing the machines on.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, but your work speaks for itself, and you guys have done a great job of creating your own render farm. So congratulations on that. And I think that gives us the tracks we have so far. Get your contract down. Don't lose, any time in communicating what the expectations might be. We have our own personal render farm on how to create that, how to decrease the time from 30 minutes to 3 minutes. And also we have Mixamo, which is definitely a blessing for everyone here. The other one that the link that Avi had to send, we will get Avi. Yes, we will get to do that.
Yeah.
So that will be the resources for everyone who is joining us here today. I think moving on to a bit more lighter topic, which is definitely something I want to do and have some fun with it, is I want to talk about some tech fails. Okay, yes, you've got tech in place. It's what gets work done. It's what. Which is why we're here, thanks to AMD, a very strong propagator of how tech should move in favor of creators. However, tech fails. And, funny stories are born out of it. I want to hear, and I bet you guys have some, and I want to hear if you've got some funny stories for us.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We have actually, the thing is, when you are in the moment living through the tech fail, it's not me at all.
Not funny. No.
It's almost like losing a child, and it's your machine and it's not working. You have a deadline, you are supposed to render and deliver something tomorrow, and it's just given up. It's like, now today is my day off, even though it's an overclocking machine, it's still being able to function a particular way. We have, like, the funniest one was because it was so visually dramatic. There was this one night where there was like a huge thunderstorm out of nowhere in Mumbai because it was not the monsoon.
Yeah.
And we had to finish one pass of the entire render and deliver it to the client to showcase. Like, we had like a call set up, and we've been doing Zoom calls since, like, always, because we work on a platform for in Bombay, so traveling it's a bit hectic. And so there was this huge thunderstorm, and the computer gave up. And we didn't, like, we carry it, and the person who designed our machines and who could help us in the situation stays like in fort, and we had to sort of like bubble wrap the machine, take it, and we are panicking. We are like, oh no, how do we do this? How do we tell the client that we're not ready? Like, how do we, like, what's the next step?
All the while, it's every question that we have is accentuated by thunder and lightning.
It's like,
Will the computer get wet on the way? That you're like, dude, stop. Like,
I'm glad you're painting this picture. It illustrates my storyteller part of my introduction.
Yeah. And then you wrap this, and then you manage to find a big Uber, like Uber XL, and then take your computer in, and then all the while you're just like, I hope this works. I hope everything's okay. It's like, literally, it's like something happened to your pet or something. You're just like, no.
That blue screen of death on 1 day before delivery is the worst thing that could happen to anyone.
Blue screen of death.
You don't know whether, like, the machine isn't restarting, it's not responding, it's just giving you this blue screen, right? So, and this is at 1 a.m. So, like, you really don't know what to do, bro. You're meant to have renders ready by the next morning.
Yeah.
Someone can come by and collect the drive. And most production houses, producers, post-producers, they will throw like a fit if you are not delivering on the day that you've said that you're going to deliver. Because usually what happens is that we are involved very late in the process. We are always called in like a month or 2 months max. 2 months is like a lot of time. Usually before a month, you're like, hey, we have a title sequence to do. It's 4K HDR, and we want you to do it in 10 days. You're like, no, it won't happen in 10 days. It'll happen in 25 maybe. And on the 25th day at 1 a.m., if you've got a blue screen of death and you're not done with your renders, that's the scenario. And imagine that with thunder, lightning.
Very, very frightening.
Yeah, and then we take the machine to the studio. We take it to the friend. He opens the machine, picks out the RAM, dusts it off, puts it back in, starts the machine, and it works. What? Like, why did this happen?
You were just not caring for your baby enough.
Yeah, it happens.
Bro,
Sometimes RAM just gets loose, yeah. So you have to just put it in. Why did you freak out so much? I'm like, why did I freak out? Did you see the thunder and lightning? And I said that, and there was thunder and lightning,
Yeah.
So, but thankfully he had like 7 cats, so we kind of just found our way to just like calm down and like.
We stayed there a little longer.
Yeah.
Sunshine and like morning sunrise, and then we left with the well intact machine. But yeah,
that is one time, and then there was this one time when. So I would really recommend all artists out there right now that if you've got softwares, pay for them. In the beginning, of course, you can't as freelancers, but then as you move on, most softwares have a monthly model that I would really recommend that you intend, because if something goes wrong with the software, then you have somebody to talk to. There's support. They get back to help you fix it. But
Right.
if you use pirated software, or if
Who are you gonna talk to?
even
Are you gonna who are you gonna call? Who are you gonna call?
Yeah.
there's this Chinese website on which we found this, and this is like way back in the day. Yashoda was not going to stop laughing now. Way back in the day, we decided that, oh, we needed this plugin last minute, okay, and it's always last minute. And we were like, okay, we'll figure this out for now, and we'll like purchase it later or whatever. We downloaded it, and then you know how sometimes on websites there are these download ads that look like download buttons, and then you click them, and the next
I think there's a word for that, like like booby traps, but like
yeah,
worse.
and that happened, and there was like 59 to 600 windows that are just popping up. We're all in Chinese, and then we're like, what's going on? And Yashoda's trying to close them, but they're not closing. And then the next thing we knew, our entire drive got like hacked or some shit. And then we called our guy, the I told him that we can screen share and we can show you what's happening. He's like, oh, I know what happened. It's gone, dude. You have to format your system now. I'm like, format, then I have to reinstall all the software. It's like, well, should have thought of that before you click that button,
My God.
Yeah, so do not, especially during your time crunches, don't experiment. Do not try to change the config of your system or get some new software that, a hack for it or whatever.
Yeah, definitely a hack. Pay for your softwares and get a kitty farm.
Yeah,
Get 7 cats or more. Yes.
yeah.
Somewhere in that ballpark. Okay. Well, I'm sad, but I have to move on to the next question because the stories, I love that your stories keep rolling. But okay, so I do have a question that I am curious about, and how you guys approach it as well. I mean, your work looks very prolific, very dynamic, looks like you work honestly 24/7, 365. So when and how do you make time for, your passion projects, for your, for your private explorations, or whatever? Would you say that that is something that is important to you, something you would guard, fervently if somebody tried to, sort of take it away?
So I want to take this one to begin with, and Yashoda can add in. But I think that you can never, there is no special time that you'll ever get in your life that you can keep aside for a passion project. It's always going to have to be figured amidst other things, because passion projects aren't projects that you kind of, you have a budget or a timeline or something like that. It's just an idea you get, and you really want to make it because nobody else would pay you to make it, and there's only you who can make it. It's you, yeah. So those kind of projects, we basically keep brainstorming with each other all the time about new ideas and stuff like that. We have like little notes that we keep about the kind of potential projects that we could do on the side that will be entirely ours, and we just have to schedule it. Like now Yashoda has come into the habit of basically reaching my place at 8 a.m. so that we have that window between 8 and 11 a.m. During which the whole world has gotten up and checked their emails yet, so they can't really call and just whatever, like inquire, ask us for a budget or whatever.
Yeah.
So that window between which we brainstorm about the kind of stories that we're trying to make, or like do some hacks. Like Yashoda is editing a music video right now out of footage that a friend has shot, and like there's a lot of things that we have parallelly happening with all the projects, and it's because you always think that I'm going to take a break at some point and then I'm going to do this one great project, but that break won't really come because everything is always, you're always rolling your funds and your time. You're never going to have that perfect bank account when you can just take a holiday and do your passion project. It needs to be figured amidst everything that you're doing.
Agreed.
That's my opinion. I don't know.
Agreed. So how I approach passion projects is basically, for me, I think it starts off with either I have a cool idea which I want to try, or if it's something, if there's a particular shift as an artist that I want to do in the style of, say motion design, I want to do something different, then I take time out for that. But like Vijay, it's always like you have to squeeze it in, You're not gonna get that 1 weekend, 1 month, or 3 week vacation where you can sit and plan this. You really can't, because ideas keep coming to you randomly. You
Yeah.
so
You never know
the
when.
thing is,
Yeah.
so you just stay faithful to the ideas and nurture them. So,
Yeah.
and also because if you plan your communication with your clients, chances are you'll get those 3 days window when they look at your animatic, and then you have those 3 days and you're not doing anything on it.
Right.
But it's going
Or
to go
that
through
week.
a chain of approvals before it comes back to you. So you have that
Yeah.
window.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
always imagine the time for a passion project as like, just like finding this space and there's coffee in my hands and, like the weather is perfect and the music is like just right and really softly playing. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is the perfect time to get onto that passion project. But that's never really, neither does it come nor is it actually, constructive, because when you're so relaxed, you're going to take a nap.
Yeah.
It just never really happens.
Yeah.
Vijesh has this favorite saying is like, when you अगर किसी चीज को बहुत दिल से चाहो, पूरी कायनात उसको बर्बाद करने में तुला रहता है. You have to make it happen. The universe is
The
not.
universe is going to conspire against you. It will never help you.
True. I'm sorry, but you need to make that movie. You need to hear the other side of the story, okay? So you make that. But okay, so we're talking about how you personally get around to it and things like that. But do you think there's a real need for passion projects? Like, do you think we should pursue them as they do?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
I'm currently a member of motiondesignawards.com. And the thing is, there are so many entries of title sequences that are sent into the site that are, submitted for the awards. And the description says, I've been doing motion design, but I wanted to get into title sequence. So hope this will serve. Like, you need to do that, because no one's gonna come to you and say, okay, here's my show, do this for me. They're gonna look at your profile because you submitted something, you've made something, you created something that you want to pursue further. So having passion projects is very important. You need to figure out what you want to do and just go ahead and do a very, like, even if it's not something you're very happy, just finish one, put the first one out. It could be as simple as putting out some reels on Instagram. It could be as simple as putting your artwork on your Instagram account. It can be very tiny. Start off very small, and then it will lead you to the bigger ones. So,
Yeah, because actually the industry likes putting you in boxes. If you've done something and they see that it's relevant to what they want you to do, that's when you get hired for it. So if you don't have a title sequence, they're going to be like, you're really good with animation and motion design, but I don't see a title sequence on your reel.
Right.
I mean, I've seen so many people who've just made title sequences for films that have already released,
yeah.
or like just title sequences of fake films that don't exist. But I'm just saying title sequence because it was an example that Yashoda was saying. But anything that is relevant to what you want to do, you need to make like a little, baby project out of it, and like just try it out, because then you know whether you can really achieve it or not. And that's a big learning process, and it's something that can really diminish your ego. But it's something that you need to put yourself through, so you know whether you can actually do it or not.
Yeah.
Right. And that is sort of the space when you're not doing it for anyone else, when there's not a deadline or anything. That's when you can really explore if you can do it or not, and then have your ego be beaten to pulp, I guess. That's the only time you can really do it.
Yeah, correct.
Have fun doing it.
Yeah, have fun doing it. You can either say have fun doing it, or you can say have fun doing it. Either way, that's how the passion project.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think one of the sort of last questions I have for you before moving into some questions that we have gotten from people watching today. How important do you think it is to keep yourself aware and updated with the technological advancements in the spaces that you work in? And how do you go about it? How do you keep yourself updated?
It's super important. Like, you have to keep updated. You have to keep watching stuff that's out there. You have to keep figuring out about software and the developments. Like, someone over here asked about which renderer would be good, Octane or Redshift. But there are so many more. There's Arnold. So you have to figure out what the renderer is good for in what capacity. For example, is really good for looks that look really stylized and stuff like that. So you can really, the materials and the camera and those extra bars that you have, you can actually give it a very stylized look. So it's really good for that kind of thing. And I think it's really good for motion design. But for realism, then you really need to go towards something like Redshift or something, because it's like a very technical node-based renderer in which like the look, the realism of the look really comes through if you give it the parameters. Arnold, on the other hand, is really good for if you want to use volumes and stuff like that. You want to like make an environment that's really foggy or something like that, then Arnold gives like really good results. Arnold apparently is really good as a renderer and a lot cheaper than Octane and Redshift as well. So like, I mean, I know this because I keep abreast. I keep talking to people who work on it. I keep reading articles and stuff like that. I don't use renderers nowadays in my work because we've been on sabbatical actually for a while. We've been doing a little bit of content development, but at the same time, like Yashoda and me actually started off as 2D motion designers. Like we started off in After Effects. We started off with 2D motion graphics using Photoshop, Illustrator, and then taking that into After Effects. And that is our area of expertise. Whenever it comes to any CG-based projects, of course, you have to collaborate with people who are good at that. And I did take a shot at it, but it's not something that I really completely was able to manage, because like it needs a considerable investment in terms of like render farms and stuff like that, so that you can really take up that production pipeline and then make content on a regular basis, with just one machine. I mean, I know there are online render farms, but then again, that's another investment that people don't really pay for. Yeah, I mean, we kind of do and don't do CG based projects these days. It depends on who we can collaborate with.
Yeah.
That's one more thing I wanted to add, like one more thing, sorry, that basically know your strengths and hire people who are good at things that you are not, because there's always going to be a specialist for a certain kind of style of artwork or a certain kind of format of storytelling. You are not going to be the expert of everything, and you're not going to be able to have all these talents. If you need a 2D animator in your title sequence, if you need 2D animation, don't try to do it yourself. There's someone who's so much better out there who's looking for a job. Contact them, stay in touch with them, engage them in your project. That will just make your project a lot more lively. You don't need to be the master of all
trades.
Yeah.
Tech guru, like basically we had tech gurus as our friends who helped us figure out the whole pipeline for Gustak, And like Vijesh said, it's very important to know what's out there. And fortunately, I have a lot of people in my circle as well who are constantly, if they find something, they share it on WhatsApp or Instagram, and that's how you learn more about how technically, like the things that I learned when I was studying, and now how far have gone, or what's the latest thing that has happened in terms of technological development. I do get updated because of that. And recently, even in After Effects, the AE scripts, and there are other scripts for things that you can like that for, like even for say for example Guilty. I just want to show you this last shot in the sequence, which would have otherwise been a nightmare to pull off. One second.
Even the birds, right?
Yeah, this entire sequence of So now this is what we called as the work planet. We basically wanted to illustrate that they were like the message spread to the planet, and we can now be a better planet in terms of humanity, and we'll have this entire like community of people who are doing the whole circle, like are able to give back to nature, give back to, like, just be more aware of things and protect what you have, and this was done on like by using AE scripts and by using like things which combine a lot of images and animations together to then fit into a model. Now stuff like this you are aware of because you have friends, or you are online looking for it, or you subscribe to things where you can know about these things, that there are scripts to do. Things that like even nowadays there are rigs available for like 2D characters, which help you animate a lot easier in After Effects as compared to the earlier days where your puppet tool animation was was used to do 2D animation often, and that used to give a very good result. But now you can get very realistic looking character animations because of scripts available in the market, which you can just purchase. Because technology has developed, so someone has designed the script for and put it out there. So you can definitely take help from that and then use that to better your project. So I
Yeah.
feel, like
There
being
needs to
a
be an
better person.
exploratory stage also where you keep looking at stuff like this and see how it can make.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Oh, I think
Mm.
did we get
we
disconnected?
lost
What was
you.
that?
Yeah, we lost
There
it.
was a glitch in the
Hi,
matrix.
Vijesh. Can you hear us?
I can
Yeah,
hear
there's
you
a
guys.
glitch
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
matrix.
Definitely. Are you with us? Can you hear us?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
I forgot what I was saying.
Perfect. All right. This is one part of the tech fails that we were talking
Yeah.
about, which is brilliant that we have illustrated along with the talk.
Yeah.
I'm glad that happened. But okay, we are actually a bit short on time, and we have a few questions for you. So I am gonna bring this to a swift end and conclusion, where I have had a lot of fun talking about time hacks, about tech fail, about the need for passion projects, and how it is that you go on and pursue those passion projects. And I lastly, of course, want to thank AMD and IFN for bringing this kind of conversation to people who are watching,
Thank
who
you,
need.
AMD. Thank you.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Andy.
Absolutely. So this is sort of the kind of conversations that are required in this space to be able to manage time better, manage contract better. We're going to be doing a lot more of these, of course, going on to the future. And one last shout out I want to give to AMD's is another video, again 30 seconds, and absolutely kick ass. So watch. Yeah.
It's a hologram. One processor to render them all. Support available now. Hey, I did a voiceover.
That's so cool.
yeah. I don't know whether all their videos are super
Yeah, that
kick-ass,
looks
and I
really
love
cool.
showing
I
it to
really love
people.
holograms, man. I wish they exist somehow at some point. And I want to be alive when they are, there. We can see them in our lives.
Well, here's hoping. Here's absolutely hoping. Okay, gonna jump right into the questions we have for you. We are so overshooting the time, but all right, let's have some fun. How did you guys manage the work pipeline, manage assets while doing work from home during this quarantine?
So actually, Yashoda and me have always been working from home.
That's what
Never
I
had a
thought.
studio set up.
I really hope that answers it.
But the truth is,
Yeah.
from the very beginning, we've always used smart tools like Google Docs and stuff to have collaborative documents that are accessible by people from all over India. Our artists are from all over the place, like Chennai, Bangalore, Manali, Delhi. So we create these kind of sheets, like Excel sheets that have very descriptive scenes and storyboards and everything. So it's all accessible by everybody who's working on a project for especially their part of it. That's one thing. The second thing is, of course, like now when it comes to pipeline, we're using After Effects, which is, it's again, we use Google Drive for sharing assets. Like people upload all their stuff onto Google Drive. We download it from there, and then we can always like have annotation on whether which version works for us, and then accordingly it can just get updated. So we've mainly been using Google to manage our pipeline. But yeah, I mean, I think that should answer the question. But like,
Yeah, that's how we survive 2020.
With previous practice, yes. Okay, so I have a question from Mukesh. This is for Vijesh, sir. Being a compositor, what would what would suggest freshers who are done with their courses and looking for a job? Do companies hire freshers as compositors?
Yes, I mean, Viraj would have a really good answer for this one. But basically, yeah, I mean, so what happens with most companies is they have their own software and pipeline. A lot of companies that, I mean, it's going to be traditionally Nuke only as a compositor, right? Compositing software. But Nuke has several extensions that are tailor-made for each company. Like, for example, if we've got a double negative or an MPC, each of them have their own kind of pipeline, and all of the Nuke licenses that are under that pipeline have their own kind of tailor-made, what do you call, solutions and whatever, plugins and stuff like that. So traditionally what happens is, if you're a fresher, you go up to a studio, you have to kind of have a reel. That's very important. You need to show that you have the basics covered, you know how to composite basic stuff, and then they take you, and then there's a training period during which you kind of have to learn how the software that works in their world and their system and their pipeline. And once you know that, is when your training ends and you actually either get promoted into like a full-time employee, or there's different departments also. Like for in Bombay, there's like a match move team, there's like a CG team. It's not just compositing, there's compositing plus match moves. You get to experience a lot in that training period. But of course, before you get hired in that position, you need to show that there is a level of competency, that you understand compositing.
Yeah, like you are able to break down the
Yeah,
shot. And this is generally the first test that you will have to enter into any, like when you want to get into any studio. They will see if you are able to break down the shot visually, and you are able to do the basic necessity needed things, or are able to add those things to the shot to make it look more
yeah.
photorealistic.
Like
And
most
yeah,
companies, like especially when we were hiring compositors for a freelance project, we had a test that we basically sent to them. Like for us, the job was CG comping, so we needed to hire freelancers for that, and we basically had like a test put in place where we have some CG elements straight from render with several passes, and it was up to the composer to use those passes and make that CG element look as real world as possible. And the better they did at the test, the chances of them being hired were higher. So that's how it usually is.
Right. So give it a shot, do the
Yes,
test.
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so Roshan has a pretty open-ended question. Are agreements for creative jobs a thing in India?
Uh,
With,
that's actually, it needs to become a thing. Most
Yeah.
VFX houses have very stringent legal contracts and work agreements in place, because the entire company kind of relies on that job for things to go right, for everything to fall in place. So yes, most VFX houses, most motion design studios that have done some amount of work have very full-fledged documents that specify that this is the duration of work, kind of
Right.
number of changes allowed, and whatever.
Right.
We have our own
And you,
as well.
right, and you created that like yourself, or
Yeah,
did you
yeah.
seek help
Mostly,
from?
like
yeah,
we did consult a bunch of people. We did see, on the basis of some contracts that was from abroad, they would specify it themselves that okay,
yeah,
things that we would expect. What is it? How does it look to you? Do you advise us any changes in the document?
Right.
And we'd be like, oh, this is actually cool. You should have
This is so ironclad. Yeah.
yeah,
And
what I was
yeah.
going to say is that it's up to the artist to make sure that there's an agreement in place, because if you just sign up for work without, I mean, most companies are going to make you sign an agreement anyway. You need to go through that and see what in there can actually make a nightmare out of this project for you, and you have to kind of tell them that you want, this clause doesn't work for me. I need to add these things so that it works for me as a project, because it's not just budget that uh, can go wrong. It's always your whatever, like uh, what do you call, really
yeah.
small clauses can make a project a nightmare for you.
Yeah, and with the whole OT boom, like contracts are a thing now.
Yeah.
Like before they weren't, but now like we learned about more of these contracts when we were sort of in the initial stage of learning. That's when we also came across certain contracts, and then we realized, okay, like under or like service agreement contracts exist, and having that in place really helps. So OT, because of OTTs, I think most production houses have sort of gotten into the habit of doing it, but ask for it
Yeah,
always.
ask for it, go through it. If you have a friend who's a lawyer, ask them to go through it.
Absolutely. Those are the
Uncle,
best friends to
whatever,
have.
like some relative. You
Yeah.
need a legal person with legal knowledge to go through it and make sure that it's not something that's going to bind you, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I think one very quick question and a final question because we have definitely overshot time. What is the best way to reach you guys to
It's
collaborate?
already done
So,
it actually. Hi,
Roshan, you're in.
Rashmi.
Would
Aviva
you
is
say
going to
Instagram
connect
is
you
the
to
best?
us.
Amirul's gonna do everything. Where is that website we needed? The dash 3D.
Kid Bash.
I'm gonna do it. Is it Kid Bash?
Yes.
Kid Bash
3D.
3D.
Just Google
Yes.
Kid
For
Bash
anyone
3D.
who's looking for this resource, please. Yeah, just go ahead and do that. All right. For one final question, we have Paul Bobby asking if I need to work on title sequences, what might be those that I need to focus more on since these require a variety of skills ranging from 3D to compositing.
I think for good title sequences, you should be into. Okay, so depending on what you want to say. I'm going to try and make this really short and concise. But I feel like being able to express your idea visually, is what you primarily need to do, because 2D doesn't matter. You will find the collaborators, you will get the necessary art and motion design in place, and that's a skill set you develop over time. But being aware of what to be said in the title sequence and how to cinematically say it, like being able to maneuver camera through any CG software is very important, because that makes the difference between a very flat but excellent looking 2D animation to a very cinematic looking title sequence or a motion design. I think this is something that I find lacking a lot in the Indian industry, and that's why I would encourage more people to look into it and
Yashoda,
practice.
you just said some very incriminating things. Just don't say that. But no, but on a serious note, what I wanted to say is that title sequences are mood pieces. They're not, you can't categorize them into animation, VFX, or just motion design, because you need to be all of those things to be a title sequence designer. You need to be a designer, you need to be a good animator, you need to be a good compositor. All of these things are very crucial things that kind of come into place to create that mood piece. And the good thing about title sequences are they're very cerebral. Directors love title sequences because it's like a very what do you call, abstract kind of representation of the thoughts and the principles that the world in their film kind of contains, right? So directors love them, producers hate them, because they're like, सब लोग skip करने वाले हैं, क्यों बनाने का cinema, क्यों time pass कर रहे हैं तुम लोग?
Yeah, actually there's a joke about it in BoJack somewhere as well. Actually, like, oh yeah, we pay people in exposure and credits, and then put an option to skip credits.
Yeah.
So, it's really it's an incriminating thing. And I'm talking about incriminating things. My message says Kid Bash. It is not Kid Bash. It's Kid Bash.
I've put a message there.
So, please ignore that and
Do not Kid Bash.
do not Kid Bash.
Good lord! Like,
please don't do
what are you
that.
into?
Moving on, this has been a great conversation, and I hope it has been equal parts entertaining and equal parts informative for everyone watching. For one last time, I want to thank Yashoda and Vijesh for joining us this evening. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for being here, and I want to thank IFN and AMD for creating this space on this beautiful Friday evening. And this is me, Nupur Saraswat. Thank you so much for joining us. Here's us signing out.
Over and out. Bye-bye.
Over and out.